Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream. That ACO guy here. Yes, multiple streams in 1 week. We had Thanksgiving, that was fun. 4 hours. A bunch of you watched it. A lot of comments, been reading them, replying. Thank you for that. I do have some sound in the background. I'm 3D printing a thing, and I thought I'd be done maybe right about now, but it seems like it's going to go a little bit longer, so maybe you guys get to see what I printed. Today we're talking about live bearers and the people that have joined the chat early, which we send out a notification an hour before we go live. If you'd like that, sign up down below. But they've spawned about 10 questions, and we're going to start there, and I'll be looking at the chat as well and kind of chiming in from there, because usually when you start talking about something, there's more follow-up questions, and if I don't answer your question, it either means it was terrible or it's already written down and kind of coming up in the program. So eventually, yeah, we'll take any type of good old question, but we're going to start with by far the most popular question that kept coming up from people, and that was, does temperature affect live bear sexes? So breaking that down, because we've got people all the way from keeping fish for 200 years to keeping fish for 2 minutes. What that means is there's been lots of studies and just overall, overall, my wife has messaged me and throwing me off. Lots of studies basically that have studied whether temperature changes the sex ratio when given birth, whether it's a egg layer or a live bear like this. And for a while, there was definitely some thought about crebensis doing it or Teneatus. And from what I've seen, just being a consumer, an observer of the hobby for the last 20 years, I have not seen that to be true. I've seen pockets of it where people swear it's happening, but not fully recreatable by someone else. And so I would go out on a limb and say, no, I don't believe that is at least widely accepted at this point, or easy to replicate. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but there's not enough we don't know. This one person said, hey, they were getting a bunch when it was cooler water. The next person says, hey, I'm getting the exact opposite of that. And that's what we see. We see that when someone makes a claim and then we peer review it, we go, but I literally have the opposite of that happening. And so when you can't repeat something reliably, it usually means there's some kind of outside factor, whether it's genetics, whether it was water structure, whether it was feeding, whether it was you just had males chasing down all their males because they were aggressive. We don't always know, but it's not easily repeatable. And so that doesn't mean it's not going on. It just means that we haven't proven it yet. And so you might have that going on in your fish room and you can breed to it like clockwork. Yep, and that might be it. But I'm not seeing that. A bunch of other people aren't seeing that. And some people are even seeing the exact opposite results. So I would say at this point, there's no conclusive evidence that any one temperature or high or low or anything like that actually has a bearing on what you're going to get. So I think we could put that one to rest for now, which there might be a great paper that comes out or a lot of studying being done, and we will have that answer in 5 years. But as far as now, we don't have it. So that was question one, and by far the most asked. Next up was, how easily do swordtails and platies hybridize? How readily do swordtail traits, color, and the pattern transfer to hybridized platies? And does it make a difference whether the platies are variatus or maculatus? So that's a pretty complex question if you're not into live bears, but I'm going to break it down to be more simple. In general, the color from both platies and swordtails comes from platies. In the wild, maculatus, however you want to say it, usually will have color, some color. And you'll see these in wild form. So you go to like dansfish.com, you can see some of the wild form of these live bears, and you're like, yeah, there's some color, not a whole lot, but there's some. And if you line breed them and work with them, you can get them to be bright red, for instance, where we might have red platies. But we also have red swordtails. There's not really red in swordtails that I've seen. There's a little bit of hints of blue and greens and maybe a little bit of light orange in some of the Alvarezi, but when you cross them, you get kind of the best of both worlds. And so genes can be recessive, and we're not going to get into Punnett squares and stuff like that. And I don't know enough to know which ones are dominant genes and recessive genes for all the different gene combos. But in general, you get the color from the platies, you get body size and the tail shape that you want from the swordtails, and yeah. And so the next question was, how important between maculatus and variatus? I'm not sure, actually. That I've never studied, so I don't know. I'm not sure how easy is it to hybridize from a variatus to a swordtail. Platies talked about all the time, but when it comes to variatus, I'm not sure about that. I'm not even sure if it can be done. I wouldn't be surprised if it can, because they're very sister-like species, but at the same time, I don't know that that's a specific thing. So we did get some membership donations, and I am matching them 1-for-1, so make sure you opt in for those if you'd like to get them. I'm going to match that real quick here, and then we'll hop into the next question. Just got to get set up real quick like. Here we go. We'll buy 5. And really, I'm just trying to build the membership so that you guys can come watch the private talks and kind of hang out with us. And the notifications actually go out, so that's nice too. So YouTube, I think, is setting up for basically normal subscribers and stuff is kind of just trailing off. And what I mean by that is when you subscribe to a channel, it doesn't really mean much anymore. If you just watch a channel, it'll put it in the feed if you don't, whether you do or don't subscribe. So where memberships, once you become a member, it really signifies to YouTube we're actually going to serve these notifications. They wouldn't become a member for no reason. So that's why they're leaning into that a little bit more, as it makes you put your money behind your mouth and go, hey, I really want to see the content from these people. All right. The next question we had, and I'm still watching chat here. I've seen a couple little ones sneak through here. Is this one also part of the temperature thing? Other LIvebearers, other than guppies that can thrive in unheated aquariums, and then their second part was, do the sexes of fish revolve around hot or cold? But the first part being the unheated part. I think, for me, my experience, and I've tried this a little bit, more so years ago than today. I'm fixing this camera because it's driving me nuts. When breeding outside, I tried to leave LIvebearers out longer, and from observation, the closer to wild the fish is, the better it does. So something like endlers, a lot of endlers aren't nearly as bred to be colorful. They kind of are now, but if you get some normal looking endlers, they do really well they're really adaptive to colder waters and different pHs and things like that. Variatus platies, same. They're not as inbred, so they typically do better at cooler water. And then there's just a lot of fish that are wild. And what I mean by that is like goodeids and limias and trying to think of wild mollies and wild type platies. All of those, because they haven't been line bred, typically do better in cooler water. And so I've seen fish that I've kept outside go down at 65, maybe even a little bit lower. They start getting lethargic, and you start wondering, if I was to have a cold room, I would really play with this. But when you're playing with it outside in ponds, you can't control. Let's have it go down. If you're at 65 and they're well, they're doing okay-ish. I would love to be able to set it at 63 and be let's see how they handle 63 for 2 months. Instead, when you're dealing with outside, it could be 65. And the next day, it froze. And you don't have that control to go, and you're kind of got your eyes closed and you're walking towards a cliff, and eventually you fall off and the fish die because you don't know exactly when that temperature will drop. And so you're kind of I think I've got a long way to go. Still haven't walked that far. And you can kind of keep pushing it to a point. And the more wild they are, and what you can do is you can research temperatures where they come from. A lot of LIvebearers can survive in Hawaii, in Texas, in other states. And so when you start looking at how cold, someone had chimed in saying, hey, my local park, I saw guppies and it was really cold. It was almost freezing. And yeah, that'll happen. If you were to collect those fish, they will likely do really well outside at your house or in your unheated fish room. But at the same time, you will also likely not have all that color or that thing you're chasing. And so you're trying to find a delicate balance. And I think we used to do that a lot better when heaters were more scarce, and we basically raised unheated fish that didn't get crazy cold outside, but also handled 60 degrees in our homes pretty well. And so I think that's something we could all strive to do long term, is just kind of keep them unheated. And I would love to do that, but I've got stuff that I like being really warm, and you got to be willing to get smaller spawns, and maybe they're only spawning sometimes throughout the year. And that, when you read those stories, sometimes when you get those batches of 300 fry, they went through a period of not breeding for 6 months because it was too cold. And so they built up lots of fat, and they built up, just rested up, and the fish then bred and then had a huge spawn. And so there are benefits to it. But for the most part, commercial breeders, that's not their goal. Their goal is not, let's make a super hardy fish. For commercial entities, usually it's, let's make a fish that'll last long enough for them to buy another one. Goals aren't aligned there. And so it'll take a hobbyist push from all of us to really make that happen if we want to see that. Let's see here. We got 5 more donated memberships. Thank you. From Sith Lord. That's who. So we'll match that real quick, and we'll hop on some more questions here. Someone said it'd be nice if you could chat longer after the member live streams. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that option. YouTube has been flirting with, hey, should we do chat rooms and stuff? And I'm always like, if it brings members and fans together, yes. The answer is yes. And then they just go, yeah, it turns out that would take work, and we're just not doing that on that end right now. We would rather implement stuff for shorts. Boo. So that's kind of how that goes. Member chat. We'll answer this one real quick before I hop into LIvebearers. Have you ever kept Microphis Dakota, aka the rainbow belly pipefish? And if so, what's your opinion on them? I've never met anyone who keeps them regularly. I haven't kept them regularly, but we have kept them. It's kind of like keeping a freshwater seahorse that's straight. They're very slow. They don't like a lot of flow. They're micro predators. We were breeding them. I and another guy were working on it. We had to keep raising Daphnia and live brine. They were very, very, very picky. However, that being said, someone did say that the magic small fish feed, theirs were eating them. So that could be a huge unlock for that fish, because it became tiresome in months 6, 8, 12, 14 of like live food every day, or they wouldn't eat. Is tiresome and hard to get enough food into them to keep them breeding. And you kind of had to have all the different sizes, because you had, I just made babies and they're growing up, and then you've got adults, and it was a labor of love for sure, kind of like raising puffers and stuff as well. So, yeah, that's my experience with those. I'm interested in getting some high-end swordtails. Is there a market for them when I need to sell them in the Seattle area? No, there's not. There's basically, in my opinion, there is no market for high-end fish. And people will be like, that's not true. And I'd say, like, okay, how many did you sell? Oh, you sold 67. Cool. How many could you have sold at a better price? Oh, 67,000 of them in the country. And so what I mean by that is, how many people are going to buy $300 pairs of swordtails? 5 in a year, maybe? And people try that, and they go, yeah, I made $1,500. Okay, sweet. And then what if you just sold $30 pairs, right? You'd have to sell 500 pairs to make that kind of money. And that's a lot. But then you go, wait, that's 5 spawns of swordtails. Like, that's not that hard to do. Like, yeah. And you could sell even more than that. And so I find that the people that try and get top dollar for fish, they don't move very many, doesn't help the hobby, and oftentimes they get out of it. Where the people that are making tons of them, and then maybe they're selling them for $20 to $30 a pair or a trio, whatever that looks like, they will keep that colony going because they're constantly selling, and it's constantly having money inflow, and I think they just generally enjoy it more. And so I don't believe that there are many people that will buy high-end swordtails. I think, in general, 99% of the market is someone who wants to spend less than $10 for a swordtail, or any fish. In really, doesn't matter if it's a LIvebearer or not, less than $10, that is mostly what people want to spend. Anything above that, you've already cut off most of it. Because most people want to keep an aquarium with fish, not specific fish. And, probably 25% of all fish keepers that would walk into our store, just like, what is the cheapest fish? Great, I'll take that one. I'll take some of those. They almost don't care. They just like, yeah, I need some. And so I would definitely cater, and I'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk about Goodyids. I would definitely cater to what is more consumable. Cheaper price is always more consumable, and it keeps the wheels moving. And that's, by the way, I'm not buying your fish. That's just my take, and that's from a guy that I've got fish worth tons of money, and I spend tons of money, and then I watch what happens. And so Dean and I both have tried it quite a few times, and you can be the guy trying to sell singular Corridoras for $500 a piece, or you can be the guy moving lots of Corridoras at $20 a piece. One makes a lot of money, one makes a lot of people angry. So, but do what you're going to do. Maybe you'll find that Corey is completely wrong and you're moving 1,000 high-end swordtails a year in the Seattle area because people have gone bonkers for it and the market has shifted. But I would definitely be ready to pivot at a moment's notice and go, you know what, just kidding. They're 30 to $50 a trio. $50 a trio is kind of on the high end, I think, for a local sale. And I just, even at $10 a swordtail, I don't think you'll find that many people, honestly. But that's just my guess. It's the analytics show. It's kind of a, if you build it, they will come scenario. If everybody, like Rams got really expensive for a while because, there was electric blue Rams, and there was the powder blue Rams, and there was the Dark Knight Rams. And every breeder was like, I'm doing Rams, and I'm going to make a ton of money. What happened is all the breeders sold to all the other breeders, and once they ran out of breeders, they just stopped selling because the average person doesn't go, why am I buying a black Ram for $50 when I can buy a German blue Ram for $12? That one literally looks better. It doesn't pass the grandma test. My grandma would be like, take that $12 one all day long. That one, I don't need that one. That one doesn't look cool. So, let's see. Kind of like black rice fish and other stuff. It's like, I don't know that people actually want these. Like, people are buying them, go, ooh, it's the next big thing. But if they're honestly, if they're honestly thinking about it, they're buying it to make money and not so much because they actually love that one. Are you hearing static in your ear? You're probably hearing my printer, maybe, potentially. Or you might actually have static, too. That could happen. You probably have static because I'm looking at the microphone, and if I stop talking, it doesn't pick it up. So, you probably actually just have static. People keep donating memberships, and I got to keep matching them, but we're going to keep talking about LiveBearers because that's my passion. Someone was asking, if I go see rainbow fish in the wild, am I going to become a rainbow fish nerd? And the answer is no. I love rainbow fish, but I've spent 20 years trying to experience all types of fish, and I always come back to LiveBearers. I always have LiveBearers in my room, and even in chat today, I got giddy because I saw there was new babies that I'd never had before, and I was hoping it was my platinum mollies, the balloon mollies. Turns out it was the ivory guppies. Still cool, but not that, ooh, is it going to be the one I want? And so no other, I do get excited for other fish to breed, but it's not that level of like, oh, I got to look. And while I enjoy it, I'm fanatical about LiveBearers, and I couldn't even really tell you why, other than they're the best. Let's see here. We'll hop into the next question. Perusing chat a little bit. All right. Let's see here. My LiveBearer question is, should you regularly rotate fish from other colonies to improve genes of future generations, or is there no study or evidence that this will improve outcomes? I think in a perfect world it does improve outcomes. I think realistically it doesn't matter. So I've had colonies that have run for, let's say, 5 to 7 years. Never really gotten worse that I can tell. I am in there going, ooh, I don't like that one. I want to breed for this trade. I'm doing a little bit of work, but I'm not actively outcrossing. And outcrossing means I'm finding a sister species or strain and bringing it in to make the genetics stronger. In the studies, there are studies, and they typically show like somewhere between 3 and 5 generations, which can be done in, in guppy world, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And they kind of go like, yeah, genetically more diverse. Vigor of the actual fish, like, maybe. And so the problem is there's not actually, I don't know of enough studies done where it's like, is it actually more vigor of that fish, or was the strain you brought in just more vigorous? Right? If you had something that was like really messed up and you had something that was really good and you mixed them and you're like, yeah, it made my really messed up ones better. I could see that. And then my question is like, but why not go find a really nice version of what you want and start there? And that, I think that's what happens all the time is people go, and unfortunately the hobby is this way, and they always think I'm trying to put the big sell on, but they go and they're like, sweet, I'll take 1 pair. And it's like, you're not necessarily going to get good genetics from that. And so like when I imported from Indonesia, it's like, oh, these are $90 a trio. It's like, all right, I better get 2 trios minimum. And the shipping's hundreds of dollars, but I want at least 6 fish to be picking, like which ones do I want to breed? And so when like Dean or I am buying fish stateside, usually it's anywhere from 12 to 20 adults, and then you start picking and choosing. Unless you're somewhere where you can like, okay, now that fish, that fish, that fish, that fish, that fish, and that fish. We'll bring home 6 choice fish to then do our own evaluation once we're home and see what the genetics are when they start coming out and we start breeding them. And so I think if you put a lot more energy into that, the flip side is you don't need to outcross nearly as often. I haven't run into it, and so I'm going to just throw out like, yeah, maybe I'd have to do it every 10 years. The reality is I don't think most fish keepers are ever going to keep the same strain of fish for 10 years. There will be 4 people in the chat going, I do. Yes, every 10 years, outcross those bad boys. For everybody else, they're struggling to keep fish alive for a couple of years or keep interest in them for a couple of years. And so I don't think it's a big issue to worry about for most people. Now, if you're going, well, I have a pond outside and I just keep stocking it or they keep breeding, like, well, if it's going to be in your family for 40 years, you might consider going, hey, one summer I caught them all and we got down to 15 fish and I added 15 fish from other genetics. And then I release them again, and then I do that every 10 years. That you'd probably see some benefits because you're not actively culling anything that went bad or color or anything like that. You could probably see some gains, if you will. Ooh, we got 10 more memberships donated. One from C Mad Dog and Robin Anna Davis. That kind of rolls off the tongue. Robin Anna Davis. So we're going to match those. Gonna grow this membership 1 membership at a time. All right, back to questions. What happens to guppies in water that isn't well mineralized? Are there any livebearers that prefer or need soft water? I don't know of any that need it. I do know of some that do well in it. And again, that's going to kind of go back to you're more likely for them to do well in it if they were wild, like closer out of wild. So endlers, for instance, or feeder guppies, basically are both more towards wild. And I find they can, just like handling lower temperatures, they also can seemingly handle worse water parameters. So that might be lower pH, less hardness, as well as the colder temps. I don't know necessarily why. I suspect, I hypothesize that a lot of livebearers are bred in brackish water and in countries that have lots of heat and just have high mineral contents. And so because that's going to be 90% of what we can get our hands on, and generation after generation after generation, it's been that way, that's why when we don't give them that, they tend to crash so hard. But when you go and you get them out of the wild, they typically don't have that problem. I also witness the same things with discus. So, yeah, for the most part, I guess I should explain this because this doesn't make a lot of sense if you don't know livebearers. Livebearers are almost everywhere broken up into, I think, 3 groups. Yes. There's fancy guppies. So that's one group. Fancy guppies are so popular, they just get their own group, right? So fancy guppies are just one of the groups. The next one would be called domesticated. Domesticated LIvebearers typically are swordtails, platies, mollies, these things that we breed together that aren't guppies, that are colorful. It's called a domesticated LIvebearer. And sometimes, so you would see like, tiger endlers in there. You would see like black orchid endlers, stuff that's been domesticated. And then you've got the third category. The third category is wild type. And that just means that they look like they're from the wild for the most part. And there's a little bit of gray area in all those categories. Like, for instance, Cracodon lateralis that might be full-on bred to be red. Or trout goodeids that are very yellow would still probably get listed in the wild type category, even though really they've been domesticated. Kind of a weird thing there, but there's those three groups. And so when we're talking about what's going to handle lower pHs and lower temps and less minerals, it's things that can sneak into that wild type category. They're very close. They're much closer to their wild counterparts. And in the wild, you have to be adaptive or you just die. Like, yep, we got really cold. Yep, we got really hot. Yep, we got a big rain. Yep, pH is changing. All those things are happening in the wild. And if you can't adapt to that, you just die off. There's no meds. There's no one going, don't worry, I'll plug in a heater. Don't worry, I'll do this. You just die. So they typically are very hardy in that. But you can also get the opposite with some of those goodeids and cracodons and stuff. If you get too hot, they just die off because they never get that hot in the wild. Whereas guppies and all these other things, they do get that warm in our fish room. So they do handle it. So if you're in if you don't have AC in a garage as your fish room and you're in Arizona or Florida or Texas or something like that, you can't keep those fish. But if you're in Seattle and you have a cold, damp, dark basement, those fish will love you. Just don't eat them. So, yeah, those three groups are pretty big, different groups. Hey, here's a Vienna guppy right here on my shirt. Which, by the way, actually, this is the blue. This is the final shirt. You can buy this shirt, the Enjoy Nature Daily shirt, on the website. I got the actual shirt. Came in the mail. How about that? Got to match some memberships. Ricardo de Leon. Donating 5, matching 5. Just opt in if you want to try and win one of those. Not available on every device. Sometimes you got to get on a phone or a laptop to opt in. Let's see here. What's the deal with molly and guppy hybrids? Mostly, while they can cross and hybridize, so that means two different types of fish, kind of like, what do I want to say here? Like swordtails and platies, right? They hybridize and they make a fish that we like and can reproduce. We sold all over the place. Mollies and guppies can crossbreed technically, but for whatever reason, the way their genes come together, they can no longer give birth after that. It's a lot of times they call it a lethal gene. And so basically when these two genes come together, they can't give birth anymore, or what they do give birth to will just die. And there's some other genes like full black swordtails become a lethal gene. There's two, I think it's long or hyphen to hyphen, like hyphen male, hyphen female, breed them together. You also get lethal genes. And so when it comes to mollies and guppies, while you can make a muppy or a golly, whatever you're going to call them, those will survive, but they cannot have any offspring. And so could there at some point be a point where they will live? Yeah, there could. We've got to find, like, Is it a slight different type of guppy or a slight different type of molly, or is it just some genetic mutation that we need to have happen? Like hyphen, for instance, has only happened 2 or 3 times ever as a genetic thing to happen naturally. So we could just be waiting on that to happen, like some mutation to happen. Like, hey, that works. So maybe there's someone out there that's going to go, I don't know why, but it's working now. And, maybe they tried turning it off and on again, and now it works. So, yeah. Next up, we've got, let's see here. Maybe I'll grab one from the chat. Let's see. What should I do if I start to lose interest in what is going on in my display tank? Should I restart the whole thing and put something new? Yeah, I would. But I wouldn't go whole hog. Here's what I do. And that doesn't mean it's right, but here's what I do. I start going by, well, what part do I like the least? And I remove that. And then I go, am I enjoying it now? No. All right, what do I like the next least? And I remove that. And usually when I'm removing, I start adding too. Because I'm like, well, I don't like the way that plant looks. I'm going to replace it with this one. I'm tired of these fish. I'm going to replace it with these ones. I want to try this. And sometimes that means you end up swapping almost everything out. Other times it means like, you know what? It just actually was this one fish I wasn't liking, or this one other thing that was going on. And so, if you need to swap a substrate out like that one, like, yeah, maybe you do start all the way over. But I like the experience of going, I learn a lot when I'm like, oh, it was just that one fish was digging all the time, which made my water cloudy. That's what I really didn't like, because that was making a lot of algae, which was doing this, which was doing that. I find I go through this cycle. I've got an idea. I set up the idea. I give it like, 3 to 5 months, whatever, somewhere in there, like, come on, let's see this idea. Oh, it's not working. Okay. Yeah, that's not so great. Okay. Then I neglect it for like another 3 months, go, well, maybe. Let me make a couple tweaks. Maybe I can make this work. And then it's been like 8 months, and I'm like, it's just not where I want it to be. Like, ugh. Then I get in there and I go, you know what? After some amount of time, and like yesterday was that day for the 800 gallon, like today's the day. I spent 6 hours on the 800 gallon going, I gotta get this thing to where I enjoy it. I love the fish, not loving the plants, not loving the water quality, or not quality, but clarity. So I worked on it. And now already today, I'm like, oh yeah, we're looking pretty good. I think we're gonna do this now. And that took me months. So that's a month-long process of like, I bought an autodoser, did install it. I started 3D printing some parts, started getting some ideas. I tried 2 different UV sterilizers. I tried a different water movement pump. I tried a different filter. All of those were, we waited the 5 months. Then those were the Band-Aid, not doing what I want. Then it was ripping the Band-Aid. All right, had enough of this. Still have all the fish and everything, and I was just going, I know how to get here. I just got to put in a lot more sweat equity, and I ordered parts, and there's still a little bit more to do, for sure. But that's where I go with that whole, yeah, I'm falling out of love with it. Like, great, start changing things, and if that doesn't reignite it, then you might have to make a drastic change. And to me, it takes time. So that's what I've experienced. Fish Tank Barn donating 5 memberships. He made a video about the old, do I have it right here? The old easy floating community pellets. Oh, you hear that? Yeah, that sounds like good tasting food. Yeah, it's like a bag of chips opening. Ooh, those sound good. Yeah, it's like my dogs. Oh, here, is there food in this house going on right now? Do I need to get out of bed? Yeah, that's what the fish do. All right, we're going to donate 5 more memberships. All right, here it's coming. Have you ever kept a tequila LIvebearer? Yes. Any special care? Mostly they just don't want to get too hot, but they're a little bit jerky, but they can look pretty good. And yeah, I have kept and bred them. The problem with that fish is, even cheap, they don't sell for me. Like, hey, they're $2. And people are like, uh-huh. Yeah, are you gonna pay me $2? Like, no, I wasn't gonna pay you $2. So yeah, we'll talk about goodies and some of that stuff as the questions go on there. What are my thoughts on keeping shrimp and what would otherwise be a rarely used quarantine tank? I think it's reasonable. So long as it's not your only colony. Like I have shrimp in like all my tanks, and if I have to use meds, I use meds, and if they They don't really get killed or anything, but if they did, I'd be like, oh no, I only have 20,000 other ones to repopulate with. So, but it only really stops using copper treatments, but I use copper treatments anyway. Oh yeah, back to my list of questions. I have what is supposed to be 24 karat gold guppies. To be honest, I'm not really happy with their quality. Would it be best to add them to my 55-gallon community tank with other fancy guppies? I have that same problem going on. I've got, so here's what I did. I bought I think a trio from Dan's Fish. Wasn't happy with the quality. They were healthy, just not what I was looking for. You know, I saw the pictures and I'm like, yeah, maybe. You know, I got to start somewhere, and that's a lot of times where you got to start somewhere. And then I bought some from Indonesia, and I got a trio from them. And one of the fish has the quality as I want. The other two do not. So I now have like 6 adults with one of the fish that I'm after. They remind me a lot of neon yellow shrimp, where if they don't have that stripe down the back, they don't look very good. And only like one, you know, when you're breeding them, like not a lot of them have that stripe. And so I know I've got a cloud of babies going on in that tank right now. You guys will see it in a video. But I know I'm gonna have to take a lot of these fish that I don't like, and yeah, just go in like the monster guppy tank or the community tank. Go elsewhere. Like, you're not what I want. Get out of here. Get out of here. So I will probably remove most of the adults that aren't the metallic gold color that I want. Raise up those babies and see if I can go, all right, let's let you breed back to mom here, and maybe some of you exhibit the traits I want. And I'll keep working it that way. But I wouldn't keep like working on a batch of fish that you don't like. I would go out of my way to like, let them drop some fry, move those adults out. Do they look any better? Because you can waste a long time of like, I got that tank over there. It has not been what I wanted for the past 3 years, and still not. Like, that's a bummer. Let's see. I'm fairly active on the channel between watching, liking videos, and commenting. I'm pretty sure that YouTube has limited me being gifted any more memberships beyond 6 months. Yeah, I think they've limited it to 1, and I actually support that. Basically, I'd rather have lots of people get the chance to get a membership and see what it's about. It's not really a program meant to replace the need to pay. Not that we're doing it to like make a ton of money, but I think for a lot of channels, especially when I see the smaller channels, that small amount of income from like, oh, maybe they have 10 members is huge to them. And so when it's gifted, if it goes to the same people, they're less likely, because what I see in small pools, like they only have 20 or 30 people watching. Well, it's real easy. They're like, oh, I'll just never buy one because anytime someone donates, I get it for free. And that kind of goes against the spirit of it, I think. Maybe. I wish, what I think they should do is keep it the way it is, so you can only win once, and then make it so there's an option you could give one to someone if you wanted to. So like, oh, I want to sponsor this person. Otherwise, I want to generally just have it be random and give more people chances. Let's see. Speaking of that, there's 5 more subs donated by Wade Little. That's a little Wade. So we will match that, and we will jump on the next question. I think, the 24 karat gold question was the last one I answered. Next up, we've got what mix of LIvebearers are most compatible as tank mates, guppies, and platies? And I saw that Tyler earlier asked, like, can you cross mollies and swordtails or platies, for instance? And for some reason, I don't know. It's a genetic thing that I don't know. Is no. The answer to those is you can't. In general, though, I find I'll rank the fish. I think guppies are the most docile. I think platies are the next most docile. I think mollies are the next docile after that. And then I think it's swordtails. Now, there's a bunch of other LIvebearers, but those are very common groups. And so, for the most part, I think you can mix like, guppies and platies works okay, and platies and mollies works okay, and mollies and swordtails works okay, if you're not wanting to get too much crossbreeding going on. And so like-sized fish goes a long way. And then, when it comes down to wild types and stuff like that, it's a lot harder to go, what's going to work well with what? because there's so much variation. There's some very, very aggressive live bearers. There's even the pike live bearer, Belisonics, that is a pike looking fish about this big that will swallow the female, will swallow the male, and they only eat other live fish. Like, there's lots of stuff out there. Stingrays, there's so much. And so, in general, go with sizes and then that basic chart, and then go to the forum and type. We have a forum dedicated to live bearers that you could ask these questions. Hey, has anybody kept this? And be like, actually, yes, I have. You know, for instance, I've kept lots of different live bearers with turtles before. I've kept them with pistos and cichlids, so shellies and guppies can work. Like, what? There's all these weird things, but you also just don't want to go like, yeah, African cichlids and guppies work just fine. Like, that's not a true statement either. It's very niche. Like, because those shell dwellers stay down low, and for the most part the guppies will stay up top, on average that will work. Tyler says, I snatched up 4 more co-op lights for my new 210 gallon I just set up. See that many of the lights are almost gone. Get them while you can. Yep, it's going to be... I got to make a decision. I think online until I just had a new idea today. I'm like, ooh, I got a new light I want to make. But until we launch a new light, I think it's, I'm going to recommend, like, buy Amazon lights, like stuff on Amazon. I don't, because all the warranties are going to be fairly similar and everything, and it's not us. Just buy that. I might do some reviews on some stuff. I haven't decided yet of like, I don't know. Reviewing stuff typically just gets me in trouble. But I have been itching to do some, I guess, comparisons. What was I wanting to do? I think it was filters. Oh, I know what it was. Someone asked on the forum about canister filters, and they're getting incredibly cheap and pretty energy efficient. And Fluol continues to kind of raise their prices, and Oase's crazy money, Eheim's crazy money too. And I want to know, like, does it make some sense at this point? And I was convinced to be like, I think it does. And then the next day, people are like, yeah, I got the Sun filter, and it sounds like a chainsaw. And then they're like, yeah, and other people have this problem too. And I'm like, maybe it doesn't. Like, there's always going to be winners, diamonds in the rough. But what I hate as a consumer is I don't like being the one taking a chance. If you're taking a chance $80 to $100 at a time and you miss once or twice, you're better off buying the better filter. So I thought potentially I could crowdsource some of this, like, membership money and stuff. Go, okay, I bought these filters. We're testing flow. We're testing how quiet. We're testing, maybe how much pressure to do the priming button. Maybe a couple other features. Kind of, find a way to actually compare as close as we can, apples to apples, when everything is pretty different, really. I'd like more wild-type mollies. Even Goodyeads seem more readily available than wild-type mollies. No luck asking my local clubs. Any recommendations? Dan's Fish and the Wet Spot Tropical Fish regularly carry. We get some in every once in a while, too. But you're going to see, different... Like, there's a dwarf molly, I think, going around right now. There's a Liberty mollies going around right now. I think there might be some wild-type mollies available on Goliad Farms. That might be GoliadFarms.com. Yeah. Ordered some full gold guppies from Gold Coast USA. Heard about the Dan's Fish ones. Yeah, I've heard the same about the Gold Coast ones too. I honestly think that gold guppies are like the yellow neocardinia shrimp, where it's one out of a bunch that'll have the trait you want, and we really got to work on getting that. So I think that's what's going on, because for the most part you get what you get. Like, you order it and you get it for most strains of fish. Lisa McGrath, I almost said Gath, McGrath donating 10 memberships. We'll see if it still allows me to match that, and then we'll answer more questions. Next up, we've got, hey, this is relevant. Why aren't Goodyeads more popular in the hobby? Any ideas? Seems like a fish that prefer cooler water, breed easily, and could be found in the wild in the Americas. That should make it popular. Well, in my experience, the way fish work, they need to have color, which not all the Goodeids do, have a bunch. And it's a size thing. And it's a temperament thing. So, why are guppies the most popular? Do you own an aquarium? You can keep guppies. Do you have something that holds water? You can keep guppies, right? Now, if you go, well, I've only got a 5-gallon tank. Well, I wouldn't recommend swordtails or mollies or platies or Goodeids, right? And with a 10-gallon tank, you could probably get away with maybe one of the dwarf species of mollies, maybe some smaller fireball type platies. Goodeids, though, a lot of them get that 3 to 4 inch. It's just a no. And in fact, really they don't do well until 29 and up, and 29 would be the small part of it. So I think that's part of it is size. Already with 10 gallons being the most sold size, you've lost a majority of, not a majority, but you've lost a huge portion of people that could keep them. And then second is they don't have as much color as a guppy. And so even when you get the trout Goodeids from Greg Sage's line that are pretty yellow and look great, that is cool. And then there's some Zenatoka, whether it's the Eiseneye or I can't remember the other one, they get some good color too, but still not as close to a Fireball Red Platy or something. And so the perk of doesn't have to have heat, that is awesome, but just doesn't overtake the color part of it. So while I keep them, they never sell super duper well, but they're still fun to keep. I want them. They're great algae eaters for the most part. I want them to become more popular, but that's not good enough. It's the same reason, why aren't flagfish more popular? They're not colorful enough, and they don't stay small enough. That's the main culprits there. All right. Next question. Ribbon gene and the useless massive gonopodium, which is basically their breeding appendage. I've been told that home surgery can cure this. I don't believe it, but do I have any insight on the subject? I also don't believe it. I think that, yes, someone has still gotten a breed, but I don't think most people do. And so the ribbon fin gene, I don't even like the look of it to begin with, but basically the gonopodium is really long. You can have some streamers off the tail that are really long. And it basically renders their gonopodium as basically a penis useless. It's no longer functional. And so that's a trait that you have to use recessive genes to carry on. And if it looked amazing, I would probably be willing to go through the effort, but I'm not. The other, hyphen gene in swordtails a lot of times, or leertail gene, will have that gonopodium problem as well. I think you need to know quite a bit about where you could make that cut and healing it correctly to make sure that it would work. When the answer is just do with the recessive gene part, and that's what they do. So I don't think it's as easy. I think that's someone going, if I say that enough, I can make money because people want the males that can't breed. And now I can sell trios a lot easier. I don't believe that that's the case. But even if it was the case, how many people want to be cutting parts of their fish to breed them? Not many. So I don't recommend that. 5 gifted memberships from Manuela Barnett. I will match that as well, and we will grab another question. Thank you, by the way. I haven't been saying thank you to all those. I mean to. Trying to keep up with chat and keep it going. I've got some trout Goodeids I picked up at the co-op. They're awesome, but I found them to be boisterous. They've picked on many of their tank mates. I've had to separate them out. Yeah, they can definitely be boisterous. They're great hair algae eaters, by the way. But Goodeids, I find, do really well with things like silver dollars, rainbow fish, some cichlids. They do have that personality about them, which means they can hold their own. And it doesn't have to be just like real laid back cichlids like blood parrots and stuff. Sometimes it could be like convicts and other stuff too. And I've done it with some Africans before too, but don't tell the African cichlid people. They'll say, "How dare you? They can only live with other African cichlids." 500 of you need to hit the like button. Well, that's hard to argue with. Statements. Wasn't a question, statement. How cold can guppies survive? In my experience, they don't do well under about 70 when you're keeping them, like any ones with color that have been bred. I find under 70 not so well, 72 okay. The warmer you go, the better for the most part. What do I think about Limia LIvebearers? I had a strain of Limias for a long time. I don't see the appeal of them. Like, the ones I had were good, but what I'm saying is there's a bunch of different Limias, and to me they're like, yeah, they're all fairly similar. I don't see the appeal. And so for me, if I don't fall in love with it, and it doesn't have a bunch of color, and the public doesn't want it, you got to really want to preserve a fish, and I just don't think many people are into that. I can preserve other fish, like a different goodie that does blow my mind, and accomplish multiple of those things. So I think Limias are just in a tough spot because they just don't have that color, and they've got a long history of like, oh, they're so sensitive. In my opinion, they're not. But yeah, I definitely, if you like them, keep them. That's fish keeping in a statement. If you like them, keep them. If you don't like them, don't keep them. There's so many to choose from. I had a large female guppy, and then it was skinny. The babies are MIA. I think a Betta Splendid ate them. Or is it a possible miscarriage? Technically, either's possible, but I would tell you they probably got eaten. In general, guppy babies are good snacks. So other fish, they fit in their mouth. They go, ooh, that's a lot of protein. I'll eat that. And so why you can kind of raise guppies up as a colony is they have pretty small mouths. And that means it's harder for them to swallow fry. And if they can survive a few days, they're not big enough not to get eaten. So, yeah. 68 to 76 is ideal for guppies. I keep mine at 68 and they thrive. Sure. I would not say that is worldwide in every strain, though, because I definitely have strains where it's like, oh, under 70, they're dying. And so, now I could be the outlier. Maybe everybody else in the world can keep them at 68 and I can't. That could be true. We all have our own selection bias. However, if I can't do it, my employees can't do it, my customers can't do it, my store can't do it, it leans me towards, yeah, under 70, it gets harder, in my experience, from the guppies that I'm able to get my hands on. Now, I do have experience with bringing fish down in temps over time, and that does work. Yep. And if you see, part of the problem with anything is if your experience is like, I got this fish from my neighbor and my neighbor was keeping it in the 50s, and then you go, I can keep them in 50s. That doesn't mean all of them can be kept in the 50s. It just means that strain could be. And sometimes you'll meet people that don't even realize, like, oh, those fish induce too well for me. And you'll end up with an unheated fish room, but like out of attrition of like, oh, if it can't live there. You meet people all the time, they're just like, oh, if it doesn't like my water, I just buy different ones. They just die. Like, whoa, okay. But then the fish that are in that water, they really do love that water. And so we got to make sure that, like, yes, when we're making big public statements, and I try to do this as often as I can, I'm probably terrible at it, but going, just because I have that result doesn't mean everybody has that result. And until we kind of really adopt that, we really talk about it in majority. And when I say majority, it's not 51%. I'm thinking more like 80% or more. Because even if you said this thing's true 51% of the time, 49% of the time, if it's dying, that's not great either. So, but this is why I want a LIvebearer forum, and I run one, is because I want these so that you go, yeah, Lefty O says mine are fine at 68. The next person goes, mine die at 72. Those two people start talking, going, what's the difference? Oh, well, they handle 68 with higher pH better, or they handle this or that better. And we can actually start learning and corralling all of us to the same, like, oh, look at this. This is starting to work. Hey, this is starting to work. And so we can all learn from each other. Let's see here. Going away for a week, vacation, does the auto feeder work with the nano pellets, or should I wait? What should I do for cleaner crew? The magic small feed, you can do it with, like, you gotta use tape to make the hole tiny so that barely any comes out, and you want to test that well before you go. The pellets, however, you can have the hole be a little bit bigger with that, but we're actively working on a way to hopefully make the easy auto feeder handle small quantities better, just because most people have smaller tanks and they want small quantities, and right now you have to use tape to achieve that. Someone made a suggestion on the forum. We took that, we're running with it, we're making modifications, we're trying it. Hopefully they'll get some samples in my hands and we'll try some more. Wade's at the brewery, convincing 2 non-fish keepers. If you get them drunk enough, they might buy an aquarium. Let's see. Back to my questions. Last one I've got on the list, and then we can hop into the chat. So if you've been waiting, it's been an hour. He hasn't answered my question. Now will be the time. Are there any actually colorful goodyids? Amica Splendens is the only one that's even close, but isn't that colorful? No. The answer is no. I would say the one that passes is a trout goodyiid that has been line bred to be more yellow. Most of them, the answer is no. On the trout goodyiid even. And then there's some Cracodon lateralises, the red, or there's like the Black Prince, red or black, yes. But it's a chicken and the egg thing. And what I mean by that is the same would have been said about all LiveBearers at the beginning. Any wild LiveBearer, when you look at it in the wild, for the most part, you're like, not very colorful. Someone saw the beauty in that fish going, but there's a little bit. And they worked with it, and they worked with it, and they worked with it, and they worked with it. And you get something that people desire. And that's what Greg Sage did. He took the trout goodie and made it better and better and better and better. And now people desire it somewhat. If people keep making it even better, it might actually make it to like, hey, it's in stores most of the time. And so it takes someone that goes, yeah, I'm going to actually do that for a long time. Like 20 years of my life, I'm going to make this fish into a fish that other people will seek out and want to keep. Most of us won't be that way, though. They're like, yeah, why would I sacrifice that tank right there to not looking very cool for the next 20 years? And the answer is you wouldn't. Unless you go, I'm going to get a lot of enjoyment out of making people see what I see in this fish, and I want to leave a legacy. And if that's what you're going for, now you might be able to stomach it. Otherwise, like, why would I try to make another fish red when I can have these rosy barbs right here that I can go buy for $5 or less a piece, right? So basically, we have to make it. As a hobbyist, you got to go, I like the way this fish moves. I like what it's doing. In my opinion, the crowd to do that would be African cichlid or Central and South American people, because that fish, most of the goodyids would do so well with them. And if you just made them look better, more people would keep them. So that's what I would be doing. And you typically have bigger tanks, and there's all these different things that could go there. What endlers do I recommend for a breeding for profit? I don't, but pick some that you like the look of. With endlers, all the money's made in the males. Like, we will sell 10 males to every female because the males aren't very aggressive. And the people that are attracted towards endlers, they don't want the babies. I don't want to deal with the babies. I don't want to deal. I don't want to deal. Right? And so we have this problem at the store right now. I probably have 200 females and no males, because I could bring in 100 males. I could bring in 500 males and mix them with the females. And we'd go, sweet, we're down to 180 females, and we sold 500 males. Like, ugh. No one wants, because that nano fish, it's a smaller fish. They want tons of color in a small package, and they don't want any babies, and they want a small tank. So it's a difficult one to make as a breeding for profit. You just end up with a bunch of females no one wants. Kind of like rainbow fish. No one wants the females on rainbow fish either. Everyone wants color. And so choose ones that have better looking females. Then you go, I don't really know of a Endler that has a good looking female. I agree. And so that's where I'd start going like, well, what fish do I know have some? Like, well, there's a little bit of color on Vienna guppies. There can be a little bit of color on, trying to think of some other small ones. I can't really. Like, we got to make them. That's the problem, is you got to make them. And if you made them, though, you'd make a lot of money. How do you set up your sponge filters with easy flow so my ranchu poop doesn't collect in the middle of my tank? You would need lots of flow. And so maybe a linear air piston pump or a very big air pump. Maybe I'll do that for next week. I'll clean this and I'll show you. I'll let it spit water onto the floor. Like, I'll crank the flow and it'll work like a power head. That will move poop around. But most people buy a normal sized air pump and they go, yeah, it's running the sponge filter, but it's not creating a crazy amount of flow. Those are two different things. So you got to have a lot of flow, or a lot of air to get that flow going. And you can have too much. If you put too much, it starts sputtering. You need it to be like the optimal amount. It's like, wow, that's actually racing out of there. But it takes a lot of air to do it. Airlift systems is what they're called. Let's see here. Oh man, I almost forgot about the Sunday stream. It's every Sunday. I almost took Sunday off, but I was like, I want to build a habit. There's people waiting to clean their tanks and stuff, and I'm here to entertain them. So that's why I'm here. Yeah, we have to pay for bags everywhere. Is it time? Is it time for the Black Friday rant? Been waiting on. The only reason I live stream today. No, mostly it's just the amount of emails that are being pushed. It is unbearable. I spent the morning going, who am I not listening to anymore? Unsubscribe from you. And I just think it's crazy. We're at a point where it's like, hey, it's 3 days until November. So we're doing our pre-Black November sale. And then now it's the 1st November. Hey, it's our Black November sale. Hey, it is the Monday before Thanksgiving. So we're doing a whole week of sales now. Hey, it's now Thanksgiving. We're doing our Thanksgiving only day sale, but better check in tomorrow because there's a Black Friday only sale. And don't forget, we're a small business, so Small Business Saturday is about to happen. And then we're going to let you take a breather. Just kidding. 3 emails today on Sunday because just want to let you know, all of our Black Friday sales end tonight at midnight. And then Monday, be like, just kidding. Cyber Monday, we're going to run this. Limited time only. Ends at the end of Monday. And then on Tuesday, you can set your clock to it. They will send you another email going, it was so successful, we've extended it for another few days. Get in while you still can. And if you're not getting those emails, it's because you actually bought something. Like, they're all set up so that once you buy, they stop spamming the crap out of you. If you don't buy, they literally basically dump you in a bucket of what do we got to lose? We got nothing to lose. They're not buying. Ram it down their throats. I've got a sneeze coming any minute, by the way. All right, I think we're good. And so we obviously just don't partake in that. We send our normal emails. And I just think it's crazy how we have gotten to the point where we literally will start Black Friday sales before it's even November. Like, that is insanity to me. And I'm convinced that everybody is just so sale fatigued that's why they're not buying. And so when you guys don't buy, the companies triple down. And they're like, more emails, more deals, more this. And it's like, and I can't help but think this. If you can afford to put things, I'm seeing fish companies anywhere from 20 to 40% off, whether it's fish or dry goods or that. Like, if that makes sense, you could have sold your stuff at a better price all year long. Like, that's the reality of it. If you can afford to go, you know what? We will still operate just fine as a business if we give this 40% off. You were charging too much for it to begin with. That's what I'm convinced of. Now, we have some discounts. You got to work for them. You got to be a member. You get 5%. If you leave us a review, you can get 5%. We do have the wiggle room of like 5%. There has to be some wiggle room in business because, as someone was saying earlier, like UPS going up 5.9%. Like, there are things that go up in cost, and you have to have some wiggle room. But if you got an extra 40%, that ain't just wiggle room. That's some crazy money there. So, yeah. Yeah, not to mention the stress on the employees for Black Friday and all that. We were still open. We still, we had the shirt came out, the ornament came out, which is above me. There's still stuff happening, but it's just crazy to me that, that we're still in this consumer economy of just, because I watch people like, well, I didn't even need it, but I bought it. It was so cheap. And it's like, they're still getting you. Like you're reinforcing the habit of charge me a bunch when it's not during these sales, and then I'll still buy when they are. So it's, yeah, the pre Black Friday rant is spot on. It's so, don't get me wrong. My wife and I were a couple where she would beg me, we'd get up at the crack of dawn and we would go do the Black Friday thing and we'd buy socks for the year. That was like our big thing. Because it did save a bunch of money. Gold toe socks, it was a good way to save money. Now, it's like, did you even think about, you thought about our business? You're going to get 7,000 emails from us now, and we'll just run a deal until you buy. And the business models I find, and what I'm watching happen, I think is disgusting, is bloating shipping and shipping insurance and all of these things that like make the product be 40% less, turn shipping into a profit center, do this, ship it snail mail, do all of these things that you can that I just think is overall just bad in general. So that's why we don't partake in it. And it frustrates me. I'm just like, I don't need my inbox slammed this hard. It's also why we don't send emails like when it's your birthday, because half of the companies ever bought from do that. And it's like, we're just going to be one more like, would you like to spend all of your birthday money with us? Like, of course we would love you to. We would love you to support us in any way you guys choose to do that. But I don't want to be just spamming with everybody else. I hate, if you've ever like been somewhere where they're like the vendors are yelling, like, shop with us, do over here, to this. Like, I hate that. Like, I just like, leave me alone. And when I'd like to make a purchase, I will let you know. Like a swap meet or something where you're getting harassed. Anyway, we'll move on from that rant. I've got some pure white platies from the salt and pepper line. Is it worth it to isolate or just consider it Kohl's? I don't see them for sale anywhere. I don't know. What I like to do is ask people, take a picture and go, do you think this is cool? And if people go, wow, that's cool, can I have some of those? Then you go, it's something cool. Another example for this would be the Snow White bristlenose. I think they look stupid. I do not like them at all. Yet, people search them out and buy them. So, there is a market for it. It's just not me. I have no desire to go, wow, that just looks like a albino bristlenose 2 days before it dies. Oh, it stays that way the whole time? Lame. That's what I feel. But there are other people that love it. Are they just breeders trying to make a buck? I don't know. I've never brought them in store intentionally, so I don't know if they pass the grandma test. Does grandma go, ooh, look at that one, it's almost clear. Do they like that? I don't know. Ask people. Post it on the forum. Go, hey, this came out. I was reading this. Do you think this looks cool? And they go, yes or no. And you go, okay, there might be something here. Grown adults still get money for their birthdays? I've got the wrong friends. It's not so much that they get the money. People justify. So in marketing, I'm supposed to hit you up because you'll be like, I'm worth it. So therefore, I'm going to treat myself and I will buy myself a light or the thing. And yeah, I don't feel like hobbies should have to be predatory. Either you're in and you want to be in and you want to do things, or you don't. Like, I hate the fact that it's like, but I could see if I could, devalue our product and our employees' worth to see if I could win the buy box. It's like, yeah, that's not a game I'm interested in. I got an FX6 for 40% off. Great deal, but why is it so much the rest of the year? Yeah. And we're talking about a filter that, and this is what I don't like, is it used to be when I was newer to the hobby, you can get an FX5, $199 all day long. Easy peasy, like just buy it on Amazon. Buy it anywhere, $199. What is the going rate for an FX5 now? Fluval FX6, because they changed it slightly ever so. Price. Let's see. What can we get one for? They are $370 on Amazon at this exact moment. And so that'll be the lowest price that you can find without being on sale. And so they're literally almost double. Almost double. And you could say, like, well, there's some inflation in there, and there's a tariff, which I think they're made in Italy, so there's no tariff there. But anyway. And so maybe you're like, okay, they should have been 300. Like, they're still $70 more. So someone was like, we could just make more money. And I believe on a lot of these things that the current way to sell stuff is mark it up really high because people buy from discounts. And that's 100% true. If I go, hey, this food is $19.99, but we'll give you a coupon code to buy it for $12.99 or $11.99, you go, ooh, I do like saving money. Better order it. Or you could just order it because it's a great food. How about you just do that? Yeah, I get so mad at these places that can discount things 70% and they don't go out of business. It just shows that they're making their prices high. Yeah, it is what it is. I bought an FX6 on Black Friday sale 2 years ago. It's still in the box. It tugs on that, but if I need one, it's so much cheaper. Ooh, I better do that. And I hopefully this will hold true forever. You'll hear me routinely say, use what you got first. If you need it, buy it from us. Like, I am out there to save you money. I am out there to save you guys money. Even though I got to sell you guys stuff to stay in business. My goal that I put on myself is, let me make a product that is so useful or is so good you want to buy it because you need to buy it anyway. If I have the world's best light and you already have lights and they're fine, don't buy my light. But if you go, ooh, my light just burned out, I need to buy a light. Which one should I buy? Aquarium Co-op light. You should buy that. And you'll see it in comments and on the forum. If you say, ooh, I have this hang-on back, should I buy a sponge filter instead? I almost always say, is your hang-on back not doing what you need to do? Because really, water and bacteria, they just do their thing. So if there's a specific need, sure, buy from us. I would love that. It probably won't clean your tank for you. Like, it's just, you don't need it. And we love, it's fun to buy stuff. I love buying things too. But so few things do we actually need to buy to keep fish, honestly. And so when you do, buy it from us, but you don't need to. What's the biggest thing in the hobby that's annoying me in 2024? What annoys me a whole lot besides everything? It's probably just the way information it used to be. I felt like there was less fighting years ago. Ever since social media, it's and my live stream on Thursday, I think, is the perfect thing. Of, I say, hey, I'm going to live stream for 4 hours on Thanksgiving, donating my time, basically. Yes, I make money from it. Yes, but we don't show ads, like, whatever. Anyway, and someone just like, oh, in the middle of the day, that sucks. Like, I think we've forgotten that because we aren't with people very often anymore, we forgot that there's actual people with actual feelings. Like, I thought, you know what? I want to do a thing for the people. I want to do a live stream. I'll do it for 4 hours on Thanksgiving instead of just playing video games or going with my family or doing anything else. I'll do this thing. And then it does hurt my feelings when it's like, oh, you suck. Like, yeah, I don't know why I try. I mean, I do know why I try. There's a bunch of you that love what I do, and so that's why I do it. But it does hurt people. And I can only imagine when you don't have a big fan base and you're going, hey, my betta is having a problem in my 5-gallon, and then you've got 5 negative Nancy's on you, and one person being reasonable, and 3 people ignoring you, how you're just like, oh, this feels horrible. I'm lucky enough that you guys will stand up for me when something bad's happening. That's not correct. Corey wouldn't say that. Nope, that's not that. That's not this. But the average person doesn't. And so I find myself having to stand up for the average person as much as I can. And that's disappointing to me in 2024, is that we are continually going more and more towards being nasty to each other, negative to each other. I really, and we're all susceptible to it. Everybody in this chat room has been bad to somebody. But the hope is that you go, you know what? I'm kind of being just a butthole right now. I need to go outside and touch some grass. I need to go play in my tanks. I need to go do something instead of, I don't know why I'm in a funk, but I'm just tearing people down online right now. And being self-aware is the first step to go, you know what? I need to take a break from this. I'm burning out on this. Tired of seeing someone do the same thing. I'm being the negative Nancy. Got to go somewhere else. Keyboard warriors have nothing better than attack others because they're miserable inside. I don't think that's true. I've been that guy. Most of us have been that guy. When you just say like, oh, it must be that person over there being real crappy. Honestly, we see it all the time. Some of our best customers, best fans, you just have to have a bad day. Maybe you got fired that day. Maybe you're not feeling well and you got to go to the hospital or you're the doctor. Maybe you're sick. Maybe people have it. But it's become more acceptable to be unkind to people. Like, hey, don't censor them. Hey, don't pull that back. And the reality is like, I think, no, you should be nicer. This is a spot where you're trying to spend time. How do I interact with my fish and be happier? Is a spot where you should be getting support and not hate. Even if you're doing it wrong. There are plenty of ways to help people doing things wrong. Happens all the time in life. Most of us are doing everything wrong in life. So, what am I hearing? I think my wife might be outside. There's loud sounds. Let's see. I needed to buy those Coolie Loaches at the local fish store today. I love being a member. I will say I did see a partner store do something I thought was fairly cool. They did have Black Friday sales and all that, but they had a tank that was, I think it was Rams and Neon Tetras, I think. And when you came in, you got to pick. You could have a Ram or, like, I think it was 6 Neon Tetras. And I just thought that was a reasonably different marketing thing of like, all right, it's not, to me, it wasn't like, oh, 40% off. Like, they could have been selling it to you cheaper the whole time. I can see how, like with livestock, if you don't have to keep them around for a long time, it does make, what is going on up there? It does make some sense where you could go, okay, I can bring those in, I could give them away, I don't have to have them for a long time, and the price would be cheaper. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. Nancy B in Tennessee. Did I just get called out? What have you been doing? Oh, you're doing it right now? Oh, my wife's doing my fish room trash recycling. It must be my birthday. Yeah, pretty much all that's got to go. Yeah. All right, well, I was just setting that there. A very gross aquarium tap. Just got set off to the side. How would cherry shrimp and guppies go together? I've got lots of videos on that. In my opinion, they're peanut butter and jelly time. Get some plants in there, they do amazing. My first time catching a live stream. I just want to say I have most of your products and I love them all. Yeah, if you just tuned in right now, that just makes me look like all I do is rant. I only rant 76% of the time. So 24% of the time, I don't do that. I got banned from the co-op Facebook group like 5 years ago, and I don't know why. It happens. Yep. The reality is, enough of your peers reported you, and we just ban and move on. We just don't have time. That's, if we're being 100% honest, that's what it is. Every day, 100 things get reported. And half of them are like, yeah, someone, that shouldn't be there. And then the other half's like, someone's being a little sensitive right now. That's fine. The forum, there's a little more leeway because you can kind of follow up a little more and go, hey, you sure you want to be working this angle? Where Facebook, there's 50,000 people in there. And so there's not a lot of investigative time. It's like, well, your peers are judging you harshly. In fact, there was one of those on the forum where this person was having routinely like just not seeing eye to eye with people. And I called them out. I go, just so you know, your peers keep reporting your content. And you're trying to have a conversation with them, but it's not working. Like, they don't understand the sarcasm. You're not using sentences. You're not including any pictures. There's context missing. If you slow down a little bit, I think you're going to get some of the response, because you'll get some people like, no one's replying. And it's like, yeah, because they don't really understand what you're trying to do. And so sometimes when you talk to them and you can pull them aside and you can go, hey, give this a try. And then they start flourishing, going, oh. And part of it is knowing the audience. And so like, well, how do you people, you don't just show up to a new group of friends and just act crazy. You kind of go like, is it acceptable here? Like, would it be acceptable for me to be eating a candy bar? Am I supposed to be loud? Am I supposed to be swearing? Is it okay? You do that. And whenever you join a Facebook group or a forum or anything, you kind of you need to slow down and go, what's the norm around here? We all hating on beta keepers? We all liking beta keepers? What are we doing? Okay, I'm into that. And you'll get a lot further when you're, part of the group, as opposed to the weird person of like, yeah, we're talking about LIvebearers over here. Like, why do you keep screaming about African cichlids? Like, yes, African cichlids are dope. I'm talking about LIvebearers though. Like, come talk about LIvebearers, and then we can start a group about cichlids. We can do that. I think sure, if you want. It doesn't need to be. My wife made me lose my train of thought here. I think my Facebook post got taken down about a rant about a bad fish store. Yeah, in general, I don't want anything negative. Because it opens us up to liability. People go, hey, look, your people are doing this, slandering my business, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get a lawyer involved. 2, I'm here to be, hopefully, the guiding light in the hobby. Like, hey, we're having a good time. You want to come hang out? It's kind of like, and it's not targeted to you specifically, Planted Goldies, so I'm using this as an example. Imagine you got 5 friends, and they're all going out, right? And you're going to go play pool, ping pong, something, some group activity, doesn't matter. And everyone's having a good time, but when you invite Larry's a downer. I wasn't going to win that game anyway. Oh, I probably won't even get a good partner. Oh, I bet you the beer won't be good. Oh, I bet you I got to work tomorrow. Oh, and they're just being a downer, right? Well, eventually, guess what happens? You stop inviting Larry. Or you keep bringing Larry, but now everyone just complains the whole time. And now it's turned into, we used to go do fun things, now we complain. And so when we have people like, oh, talking bad about something, it's like, I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. I am in this hobby to have fun, to have a better day, to be an outlet for other stresses in life. And so we run the group of like, yeah, don't show dying fish. Don't show fish getting eaten. Don't badmouth other companies, stores, whether it's a store, whether it's a competitor, doesn't matter. Just don't. Don't badmouth people. Do that in the confines over there. Like there's groups dedicated. I promise you, there are groups dedicated to just trash talking aquarium stuff. There are Discords for of it. There are Facebook groups. There are Reddit groups. They exist. There's a whole group of people that go, come on in. We really just want to make fun of people. That's your thing? Go do that. And so in general, I will let stuff stay like, this is kind of like, that's, I also don't want to whitewash everything, but it starts when you start going, we're 30 comments deep going, yeah, I hate fish stores. Yeah, I get the pitchforks. It's like, well, that is the opposite of trying to help a new fish keeper, someone learn how to keep plants, someone get help with a med, any of that. And that stuff spreads. And I don't want to be the group that is the fish police, because that's what happens is you start criticizing things, you start getting the fish police militia forming, and then pretty soon strengthen numbers, and that's all they're doing. And so we go out of our way to go, yeah, it's enough of that. Not doing that. Yep, we're just gonna nip that in the bud right there. Nope, we're not doing that. Lame Larry, husband of negative Nancy. That's right. I appreciate the positivity. Was listening to old live streams on my drive back from Florida, North Dakota. Yeah, and by the way, I realize that you can create an echo chamber and all of that, and I totally get it. But I literally want that echo chamber. If I wanted to listen to people down talk stuff, I would go to the places that they're known for doing that. I don't. I genuinely join our Facebook group and our forum to learn. I end up helping a lot of people, but I'm there to learn. I've learned 3D printing. Someone asked, how's it going? It is awesome. In fact, I'm going to grab it real quick because we got a half an hour left. But I'm going to grab you and show you what I printed because I love it. I printed 2 little pieces. It took me about an hour. I was hoping to make a better algae scraper, and you will see this and you're like, that doesn't look like an algae scraper. Well, I had to support it, and so I got to break these parts off, and I will do that, and I'll kind of show you. But I can promise you I would not have learned 3D printing without the forum. The fact that people said, hey, we will help you, Corey, and with a support system, I go, you know what? I will finally take the jump. And that's what I want for aquatics is, you know what? We're a support system. We'll help you take that jump. We'll be there. We'll help you as best we can. Doesn't mean we're the best at doing this, but you can at least bounce ideas off us. I'm halfway there. I'm removing. You see how it's like, oh, that's becoming the scraper part. I should probably remove the top part because that's probably the part the most it looks like. That doesn't look like a scraper. And then I'll show you, hopefully, if it worked correctly, how it works. There we go. Got most of this working here. Oh. There we go. There's that part. And so, yeah, that's been one of the best things that have come out of just the last couple months for me is 3D printing. It's another hobby that works with fish keeping really well. And people have always told me that. And I go, yeah, I know, but people just make lame things with 3D printing. And that is not necessarily the case. You can make a bunch of lame things. I have not printed any Spider-Man heads or Yoda things yet. I have been trying to do things that are functional. We're almost there. You see how it's like, hey, that's looking pretty good. In fact, maybe I'll skip to the fun part for you, and I'll finish this a little bit later. But then I can take this razor blade, in theory, if it's printed correctly. Come on. And the thought would be, so normally I would use my hand, and I would do it like this, and it can, you know, hurt my wrist or something after a long time. But in theory, it slides in like that, pops into place, and then there's this other little piece we printed that we are going to drop right in there, ideally, to lock it into place. I might have to clean it up a little bit. Let's see. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm going to 3D print dragons. Get in there and do your thing on camera. This would look a lot cooler if you worked. I feel like that's not what I want. Does this piece even fit? Oh yeah, it fits. I just gotta line it up while not cutting myself. Whoa. It's probably like 10 times easier not on camera. And having finished all the little parts. Get in there. Do your thing. There we go. There. It's got the little locking piece. Like, yeah, that cost an hour and probably like $2 to make off of somebody else's file. And now I got me an algae scrubber. Ah, look at that. Could I buy one? Totally could have. Did I make one because I printed it? Yep, that's why I did it. And I love doing that. I've printed all kinds of cool 3D stuff at this point. Used my bulkhead wrench yesterday. I guess I haven't done that much, but yeah. So, let's see here. Aquarium safe filament coming soon. I think most all of, well, at least the filaments I'm using, they are aquarium safe. So, yeah. Do I foresee any business use for AI in the co-op, data analytics, data management, or organization? So far, we haven't really seen any uses. I would say the AI I use the most every day is spell checker. But honestly, for as powerful it could be, I haven't found it to be very useful for our company yet. Let's see here. I have a planted tank with cherry shrimp and guppies. Every time I go to clean the sponge filter, it's filled with baby shrimp. Any ideas on how to clean it? It's already being cleaned, bro. Those cherry shrimp are in there just doing the noms, eating it. So I honestly, I think a lot of people clean sponge filters maybe a little too often. I do it like every 3 to 6 months. I clean maybe the air collar a little more often, but you know, if I really had to, normally what I'll do is I'll kind of swish it in a bucket and let all the poop settle and then net out the babies. Yeah. What are my thoughts on alpha red swordtails? Yeah, I'm this close to buying some red swordtails from Dan's Fish. The price hurts me, but I really want to make some nice red swordtails and then sell them at much cheaper prices than those. Because he imported them. I don't have to import them, so yeah. Let's see. You'll get customer service calls tomorrow asking where the co-op scraper is. Nope, that's just for me. Yeah, there is some stuff I want to build, and I'm, you know, part of it's learning the software, which I haven't had a lot of time because I've been busy, and then the other part is just learning different techniques while printing and doing that kind of stuff. You know, like this is the slim tree branching support, because you have to support it. If you can't just go like, I need plastic right here in the middle of the air. Like, we got to build up from something. And so you kind of have to make these platforms and do that. And some of the parts, you have to do that as well. Like if I want to make a thing. And so that's all part of the process, and learning different ways to support and turn and build things with that in mind, going, okay. And then, you know, I've been printing some things from our Chinese manufacturers, and that's been cool to go, all right, let me get in fact, let me show you the thing that we can't let you guys have, but it's cool. So this was we're gonna try to go with a weighted base and not this base, but this foot that allows you to basically just put this on Aquarium and it would just hold itself, because without it, now it wants to go, ooh, it just falls over, right? It's not heavy enough. We want to go with a weight here to do that, but this piece, in my opinion, let me block my face, is amazing. Like the quality of this print, block my face. You see this? Like, this is a part I printed on the printer, and it locks in so amazingly well. Like, it just, boom. Like, this is, so the fact that we didn't have to spend, you know, $50 to ship this from China to me, and I could test it going, all right, yeah, it would work, but yeah, I don't know. Like, that extra piece, I still think a weight is better, but now I got to, we basically cut probably 2 or 3 weeks of production time by just printing it, going, yeah, not the move. Cool. And a bunch of you are going to go, I'd print that and use that. We don't own this file. So unless they go, yeah, Corey, you could have that, likely they'll use this on someone else's production and they don't want to give it away. But the fact that it exists, and you could make your own version of this, but hopefully all future ones will just be weighted and better. So, and we're trying to work on that special door I was talking about earlier. So there you go. Over $100 for red swordtails? Yeah, I think the pair of red swords, $150. That's that whole $150. I would love to sell them for like, yeah, they're $10 each, $9.99. Let's see here. Magic erasers are amazing. Yeah, they are, no doubt, no doubt. I use magic erasers all the time. Mostly, if I'm being honest, I sit there and I look at things that I could print, and I just want to see, like, oh, I see how, like, so a lot of it is, I might try to make another one and go, how do I make this not look so bad? Like, if I can block myself. You see how the side there? But if I was going to make this, which I'm not, this might be a great prototype. Like, I could send this to a company, and they go, hey, let's clean all this up, but this is the basic principle I have. Could we make this for Aquarium Co-op? And they could be like, yes, we could. And that's a lot easier than I drew it really badly on a napkin and go, hey, can you make this? And they'd be like this? And you're like, oh, I didn't draw that very well, so no, not like that. All right. I'm in the only part of the state that doesn't have hard water. My city is among the softest in the U.S. I just ordered some crushed oyster shell to put in my filter. Any tips? Yeah, my tip is buy crushed coral. So the water at the store, for instance, has a TDS of less than 20. It is crazy soft also, and oyster shell will work, but it takes a super long time. Oysters, you know how they're like the shells are super hard? Well, it dissolves really slowly. Where if you've ever had a piece of coral, you're like, oh, I could break that apart. Not as hard. Dissolves much faster. And so I find that crushed coral is really what you want to be using. Oyster shell or chicken grit. Much cheaper, dirtier, takes forever to do its job. So I highly recommend switching out to crushed coral if you can. Tim Hip, better late than never. We still got some money I can spend. If you guys want to buy some memberships, I will match them still. What are decent 3D printers costing nowadays? In my opinion, I'm going to boil it down to two camps. There is the Android camp, and that's probably in the $700 range. And then there's the iPhone camp, and that's more in the $1,200, $1,300 range. I own both. I actually have both. One will be getting sent to Kentucky to 3D print there as well. And I prefer the iPhone version. Like I like the fact that I can send a print from my phone and have it start printing. I like the fact that it has a camera on it. There's a bunch of features I like, but you could save like $500 nowadays getting one from like a Prusa printer, and you might have to put it together yourself though. And like everything else, there are 3D printing nerds right now losing their minds going, he's wrong. Yes, I'm just saying from a guy that knew nothing about 3D printers like a month ago to now, I would recommend, like Dean, if you wanted one, buy Bamboo Labs. Could you do it cheaper? Yes. Are the printing better on the Bamboo Labs? Yes. So both the printers I have are basically $1,300 to $1,500. This one that's newer, way better, like way better. So yeah. But as you'll see in some of the videos coming up, I had a $220 filter that I took off my 800-gallon tank, and I 3D printed a piece for a bucket, and now I'm using that and it's working better. So if I hadn't bought the other one, you could say that right there saved me $200 basically, because I had to buy a bucket, a couple of little pieces, but it saved me like $200. If I can find more, in fact, I've been playing with this all stream. I printed this. I printed a whole thing of adapters, so different tubing sizes, so that when I want to adapt a power head or something, I wanted to see, would this print good enough that I don't have to buy these from Home Depot anymore? Answer, yes. Yes, they are good enough to not have to go to Home Depot. So in 20 minutes, I can go, you know what? I need an X to a Y size hose. 20 minutes later, I have it. Now, if I needed 150 of these, I would just buy them, because that would take way too many months to print. But the fact that I could be working on a project going, you know what I need? And then I Google it and go, oh, someone already did that? Yep, let me put it here, let me put it here. I adapted the hose size. Boom, done. So these little things, these are the things that I think it's going to be really useful for me to not interrupt workflow and go, you know what, I can make it. I need this thing, or yes, I print it, and then I have it. And so, yeah, that's where I think over time, I think a 3D printer is basically like a paper printer. What I mean by that is, do you have to have one? No. Can you go to your family member's house and print one? Yes. Is it super duper nice to go, let me just print that? Yes, it is. Now, a normal printer, like, oh, $100 to $150. Yep. Oh, this is $1,000 to $1,500. Like, yep, but it can make things. It can make literal, like, here's another piece. I made this prototype with the barbed nipple for new air pumps. I printed that. This is what the piece looks like that's in the thing right now. And so that's actually how, I didn't have a 3D printer back then, but that's how we made the air collars, was all 3D printers. So it makes a lot of sense for me. I'm a tinkerer type of dude. If you're not that, it might not make sense. But boy, howdy, has it really opened up. Like, it's starting to change the way I'm going to do stuff. Like, wait, should I make a part to do this, or should I buy this? And there's been some that have failed. Like, I tried to make I think it's over there, but I tried to make some lock line. Not a good thing. Nope, it's not a direct replacement. But so far, most things have been good. Clown Loach Police came after me when I showed a picture of the biggest one I've ever seen in my life in my buddy's welding shop in a 40 breeder. Yeah, that's the thing is like the person that's never kept a clown loach larger than 6 inches is berating the guy or girl who's kept one alive for the last 25 years and it's a mammoth, right? Like that doesn't make sense. And just in general, I just don't like that. If they were asking, critique my setup, sure, let them have it. How does gifting of memberships work? Well, basically, you click on the little dollar sign thing, and like an Avern 53 did, basically, and it'll donate some memberships to the amount you donate. It's cheaper if you're not on an iPhone device or Safari, if you use like Chrome or not that app. Yeah. And then I match them. So an Avern did it, and Tiffany White has done. I missed that one. Sorry about that, Tiffany. And so I'll buy 10 more to match them. It's because I want the membership to grow, and I need your guys' help to do it. And I too have been attacked by the Clown Lounge police. Yeah, so so imagine this. Maybe this is a good thing. If you yourself have ever been attacked by the fish police in any group, now imagine you put out videos for hundreds of thousands of people to watch. We have an army of fish police on us all the time, everything we do, and it takes all the fun out of everything. So you go through this like, I don't even want to show people what I'm doing anymore. And then you got to fight through it. And then you go, you know what? I'm still doing it. I'm still doing this for the people that aren't part of the mafia, and just go, you know what? Cool. Show me a thing, Corey. Yeah, I don't like that. Show me a different thing. Oh, that's cool. Yep. That's all it's got to be. I imagine, here's my take on social media. You go to someone else's party, and they got all this food laid out. And you go, ooh, let me try that. Oh, that's horrible. You don't track down the host and go, how dare you put this on the thing? That's just not your thing. And then you go in this, and you're like, ooh, that dip's real good. I'm going to eat all that. And then you go, oh, we're doing burgers in the back. I'm going to get a burger. Like you take what you like and you leave what you don't like. That is literally how I think most people's lives should work. But people they're spending too much time going, how dare you put this thing made out of dairy here? You know I'm allergic to dairy. Like, yes, but there's 60 people here and 50 of them don't have a dairy problem. So just take what you need, leave what you don't. And there's been lots of sayings like that over the year, and we got to find one in the aquarium hobby that will stick. Like, take what you need, leave what you don't. You don't need that. You don't need that criticism. You don't want that advice. Leave that. Participate where you want to participate. Don't where you don't. Be a good person. Show up to someone else's party. Don't be negative Larry. What does the process look like for importing fish? I'm specifically interested in balloon mollies also. I drew some inspiration from the new ones. Normally, for that, because you're not importing a lot, you just buy them on like an aquabid. And through that process, they will tell you, hey, you need to use a transshipper. A transshipper is someone who has the import license to bring them into the country. So farm ships to importer, importer ships to you. So you typically pay shipping twice. That's how shipping ends up being so much. And you pay per fish when it's in the United States. You pay whatever they charge you to get it into the country. Depends on how big that order is. Is there 500 people ordering fish, or is it 5? Will be how much it takes to get it in the United States. That usually happens 2 to 3 times a month. And you hope for the best, that they all arrive alive and you're not getting scammed. Look for reviews and this and that, and different transshippers work in different ways. And for the most part, all the transshipping I've ever done throughout my life as the hobbyist level, it's like 60% good, 40% bad. And you're like, oh, that didn't work out so good. Like, dang it. But there's no alternative. Like, well, I can either not have these, or I can get 60% success rate. And I go for the 60% success rate. And you might get on a tear where you're like, ooh, 9 out of 10 shipments went well. And you get on a tear where it's like, ooh, 3 out of 4 just went bad. But getting access to cool things. Also, it's really cool when when LIvebearer forums existed, it was awesome. Because you would develop friends. You buy these ones, I'll buy these ones. And then when we breed them, we'll trade. And then you go, yeah, now we both got extra rad fish, and it's like I got double for my money. Let's see, where do you find a trusted source? I just look on Aquabid at reviews. That's all you can do. Reviews are what make the world go round. So if you leave a review on our products, same thing you're doing on Aquabid or other places, look for reviews and go, how did it work out for them? And then, yeah, go from there. Annie who is a new member, donating 5 memberships. Heck yeah, paying it forward. We will match that, amplify it, so it's like you donated 10 now. Ooh. I clicked the wrong button here. Thank you very much, by the way. What does shipping generally run through transshippers? Usually $8 to $10 per fish with a minimum. So if you're like, oh, I got 10 fish, like, yeah, it's $80 at a minimum. And then they could have packaging fees and that kind of stuff too. Depends on how far you away from that transshipper, but usually they try to ship them directly to a transshipper that's fairly close to you. So like mine, a lot of times is in California because I'm in Washington. The 29 and the 20 are clean. Time to chill. Just in time, Brandon White. Just in time. You got started earlier. Took you an hour and something. Yeah, so the video I filmed yesterday, I'm still kind of working on it a little bit. But I basically worked on the 800 gallon and a little bit of other stuff, and I'm into it for 6 hours. So we'll probably condense that down to like 30 minutes, but sometimes maintenance takes a real long time. Because I cleaned the Big E Heim canister filter, which is bigger than a 5-gallon bucket. Ugh. Took me 27 minutes of just cleaning because I watched the whole Zenzo fish room tour that he just put out yesterday. So that's how I knew it took 27 minutes. Let's see. I still maintain people need to buy that Aquabid site and update it. Yeah, the owner won't sell it though. I've tried myself a few times. So they're just AFK on that thing. They're like, money comes in. I handle the least amount of inquiries I have to. Oh gosh. My wife has hit me with a question. She says, what is the ideal tank size and substrate combination for a mud skipper setup? I'd like to plan for 2025. Oh no. So first, I recommend watching Zenzo's tour because he has 2 mud skipper setups. Second, mostly you run them as brackish water, and so we'll probably do some kind of crushed coral-ish type substrate, but we can do anything you want to look at. And as far as tank setup, we'll want probably a little bit taller of a tank, maybe like a 29 gallon, so that we can have the out-of-water landscape. If you want to go Captain Insano, which my wife does sometimes, we might go to 55 gallon. So we've got 4 feet long. We can build it up and maybe keep it, 2/3 full by the time it's reaching half. Maybe 2 feet is land mass, 2 feet is water. Yeah, and we can kind of play around with that and see what you want to do. If you want to build up the rocks a ton or substrate. He's had Java Fern doing really well, so we will probably attempt some Java Fern in brackish water. And then you're on the hook for the monthly mud skipper video that you have to produce in 2025. I was trying to think, so last night, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was like, I don't think anybody's really done what Bulk Reef Supply did with the 52 weeks of reefing. And I'm just trying to think of a catchy name for like 52 weeks of planting, aquascaping, 52 weeks of aquarium keeping, to do a freshwater version of that. It's a lot of work, a crazy amount, to teach someone all the way from aquarium selection. I gotta sneeze here again. Captain Insano shows no mercy. That is 100% true. Take someone from planning an aquarium all the way to cycling it. That sneeze is still right there. It's like gonna make me cough or sneeze. To the first troubles of algae and that kind of stuff, growing up fish, maybe breeding the fish, maybe making some tweaks, servicing equipment, getting all the way to the 52 weeks. Because I think it is a great series. For one, just to chime in on, but 2, if you've never kept an aquarium, to actually see it all the way through. And I feel like a lot of people will watch the first 10 episodes going, I can get a handle on this. And the goal would be like maybe each episode's 10 minutes long and, not too long so you could actually learn enough. But yeah, Bulk Reef Supply did it twice. Serious Reefs, which is Ryan's new endeavor. He said he wasn't going to do another thing like that because it was so much work, and I just thought, might be worth something looking into for a freshwater version, because a lot of people love that series for saltwater, And I think for a planted tank, they're basically go hand in hand, kind of the same difficulty and equipment, and and maybe we do set it up with an auto doser. Maybe we do set it up with these things, and I think each episode would be like, okay, now we're talking about we have to fertilize these plants. Like, go over, like, yeah, you could use Easy Green, all-in-one dosing. You could do, basically mud or dirt. You could do auto doser and be like, here's what we're choosing for this build today, and here's why. And one would be like, we sell Easy Green, that's a reason why, and all of that. But then, kind of keep going through each thing. Like, okay, we need to choose, when you're choosing filtration, why are we choosing this? There's all these options. Here's why and what we're choosing. And just, same with fish. Like, oh, we are having an algae bloom, and so we're going to choose some of this fish because we kind of like the way they look, and they will help get us to our goal. Let's see, methylene blue or catopolys are antifungal. For Corydora eggs specifically, methylene blue is tried and true. I'd recommend that. Supposedly, Liliopsis brasiliensis is brackish tolerant. I don't know. The list of plants that supposedly do well in brackish is a mile long. What I've seen in people's tanks is this long, and that's with 82 font. So one plant ever almost. Let's see here. I would love a video that shows exactly how to auto dose Easy Green. I've got it. I done did it already. Let me see if it still exists. Let's see. Gotta get into YouTube. I think that video. Gotta get to my channel. Only got 8 minutes left. I gotta hurry. Auto dose. Yeah. Auto dosing pump for planted aquariums. I did it 6 years ago in my old house. Only 44,000 people have ever watched it because not that many people want to know how to auto dose. It was done in a 3-minute Thursday, and which I'm going to bring that series back, by the way, for a reason you wouldn't know, but I'm going to link that video for you. Here it is. In fact, one of my goals is to do 3-minute videos because that's what I can show before a live stream, and I don't have a great selection. I either have shorts, or like this video, which would have been perfect, is 3 minutes and 6 seconds long, and the maximum I can do is 3 minutes. So I would love to address common things like how to gravel vac, how to trim plants, how to fertilize plants, how to do a bunch of these things in a 3-minute video, and I can have them play before live streams. And you guys can also share them if people have questions. But that's on my active to-do list. I had that idea last night. I've had it for a while. I need to make videos to roll before the live streams. But I don't want them just to be sales pitches. I want to teach. That's always my goal. Is always teach first, sell second. And so, that's why I've been. I showed how to clear in the easy airflow collar. What was today's? How to gravel vac. The short, but the short wasn't a good. It's not long enough to teach it well. Since it's a LIvebearer stream, what about the 4-eyed LIvebearer, the anableps, instead of a mud skipper tank? Well, don't tempt me with a good time. I would love anableps, but I don't want to keep tanks in the house. My wife does, and if she wants mud skippers, that's what she gets, but I'm going to make her be involved in that tank. Not I'm super into it for, 6 months, and then So as long as she's into it, I will help, but I don't want to be like, because I've had it happen in the past, you can do a water change? I'll get to it, it kind of needs it real bad. It's been a month and a half. Yeah. Okay. And then I end up doing it out of I just needed to do it. Let's see here. There's quite a few videos recorded that can be condensed, promote the full video, and easier to put together than a whole new set. Yeah, but also, so the answer is yes. But 6 years ago, I've learned a lot about auto dosers in 6 years since making that video. So, for instance, an auto dosing video would likely be better redone now because I know more about it. And it's from, back then, maybe I've only used auto dose for 2 years. Now I've used probably 10 or 15 auto dosers all at the same time for many years, and I know how they're failing, what parts are wearing, how to siphon out your tank, and all of that, and go, here's what to watch out for. Watch out for this, do that, don't do this, do that. And so, yeah. Do your test strips ever go bad? I have the old bottle that I've been using. Yes, if they get wet, they can go bad, but as long as they're not getting too humid, on average, they're good to go. I've managed to lose my test strips. I was looking for them yesterday, and I gotta re-up on the wall. When I can't find something, I just pull it off the wall, and I've got some holes, and I'm like, where is this? And I spent like 20 minutes looking, and I'm like, where did I set down test strips? What video, or where was I using? Where did I store these? I still don't know. So I need to order myself some more test strips, and I need to get some more products on the wall too. Of like, I gotta stop stealing from myself. Aquarium prices are creeping up. We're nearing the end of the multi-tank era. I don't think that's true. I think I have been thinking about this. Like, what if prices got real expensive for stuff? I don't think the hobby dies. I think we just go from America, the average person having 7 aquariums, to having maybe 2 or 3, which I think is a totally healthy thing. So I'm not too afraid of that. Yeah, stuff does just keep getting more and more expensive in the aquarium world, like as in actual aquariums, just because logistics have continually gotten more expensive, shipping stuff around and all of that. So yeah. Any new auto feeder recommendations? Oh, the Aquarium Co-op Easy Feeder is the one I would recommend. We have it on our website. It's got a battery backup, runs for about 6 months, takes a USB to recharge. It's got this little drum that you can adjust how much food. We warranty it. It's got good support. Yeah, I would recommend ours. Let's see. Yeah, oh god, I already have 13. Yeah, and that's the thing is like, part of how I judge how people are doing is like, how much food are they throwing away? How many aquariums do people have? Because I still meet people all the day. I don't eat leftovers. I'm like, what? How do you not eat leftovers? Like, you know how expensive that is just to throw stuff away all the time? And so there's still room for a decent amount of people to have things cost more money. Now there's obviously families and stuff. They're like, there's not a penny to spare at all. I get that too. But overall, if we were in a situation where we have to cut things, I still think there's quite a bit of room to go with aquariums. Of like, if let's say somehow I could say you're not allowed to spend more than, I'm going to pick a number and say $50 in a year for your aquariums. You would just stretch it really far. You would stop buying the canister filter you don't need. You would stop trying as many things. You would go for more value. You would maybe keep less aquariums. You would breed more fish. You would trade more. But the reality is, you would, if you spend 5 hours on your fish tanks right now, you, with a $50 limit, you would still spend 5 hours every week on your fish tanks. So that's the part I love about aquariums, by the way. Whether you have an unlimited budget or no budget, you can spend a lot of time playing with your aquariums and have an absolute blast. It is one of the few hobbies, I think, that you do not have to pay to win. In fact, sometimes using less is even better. And so I think it's a very safe, fun hobby that everybody can get into. And that's what I find so amazing. I can be the ultimate DIY weekend warrior. I could be the guy that only buys the most expensive equipment and the rarest fish. I can be everything in between. I can have 7 FX5s on my canister or on my cichlid tank. I could run 1 sponge filter. I could run no filtration if you want. You can run no light. Anywhere in between, all of it works. And so, yeah, you do gotta feed some fish, but that's the cheapest part that we do. So, let's see, Audra Mayer with 5 memberships. I'm gonna hit 5 memberships as well. Thank you. Let's see here. I would get a 3rd job. I mean, there is that too. I mean, I love aquariums pretty good. Like, I do it for fun, and I do it for work. And even more. Like, yes, not everyone would be that passionate, though. some people would get out, like, oh, it costs too much. But when we saw like energy prices really surge in Europe, people just kept less aquariums and downsized a little bit. Not that many people got out. Let's see. How do you treat Epistylus? Typically salt or an antibiotic is how I treat it. In fact, I actually have some with some fish I got in. They're in quarantine right now. And I put some salt in for right now. I had plants in there, so I was like, hey, I wasn't expecting that. I'll probably follow up with some antibiotic tomorrow, seeing how they take the salt today, and then I'll probably follow up with antibiotic tomorrow. Really, so when we treat fish, I believe you have to eliminate the stress factors, and I believe the stress factor I have going right now is the tanks are only 72 degrees. I would like it to be about 76 while I'm treating them to make sure they're nice and comfortable, not too cold while I'm trying to get them healthy. So tomorrow I got to get a haircut. Figured tomorrow's haircut, beeline it straight to Home Depot, buy some tops. Although I was thinking about 3D printing some stuff and doing glass tops. So I got to make that decision tonight and see what the wait time is on having some glass cut for me. Could I cut the glass? Yes, but last time I did it, it was real cheap, like $4 a piece to have it made. And so I might try to do that again if I can find a glass shop that wants my money. But yeah, I'll work on that project tonight. Let's see here. I had used salt with plants as well. Seems like they're tolerating it so far. Jungle Val and Cryptspiralis. Yeah, plants do amazing with salt until they don't, and then they really let you know, like, we don't like this and we're dead. So that's the problem you run into. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, they'll tolerate a modest amount of salt. That's true, until it's too much. That's the hardest part. Is like it's that cliff we talked about earlier. Like you're walking. It's like you're just getting closer. Oh, there it went. So, all right. This is the last question. Then I'm out of here. Could I explain the difference between Epistylus and ick? Well, one is typically feeds off of bacteria. It's a bacteria feeding thing. That's Epistylus. Ick is a parasite, and they look different. Epistylus looks like kind of white, clumpy dots, whereas ick looks like grains of salt, a little more transparent, less white, and a little more salt-like. Ick, the parasite, you treat that with Ick-X, and it goes through its cycle, and it's pretty easy to do. Epistylus, bacterial thing that you want to take care of. You could use salt to do it. You can use antibiotics to do it. Also fairly easy to treat, but making sure they're nice and happy to weather that is important, and finding it early and treating it early is also important. And just differentiating between the two. But for the most part, good quality water, good temperature, healthy food, antibiotics or salt, any of those, and usually you can get through it. So, yeah. All right. I will be back next Sunday. Hopefully we'll put out a video this week, and might do a members-only live stream as well. We'll see what the forecast is for my timeline, and I'll be filming a bunch more. That's my goal this week. We'll see if that happens, or if I lose power or whatnot, or it's a holiday. Who knows? Please buy all of our stuff. Instead of putting everything on Black Friday sale, instead we just sell it everyday fair price. If you need something, think about buying it from us. If you don't, that's okay. We'll get you next time. I appreciate everybody that shows up, shares our content, likes, leaves comments, joins us on the forum or Facebook, all the other ways. Take what you need, leave what you don't, and be kind to other people. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your fish, and there we go. We'll see you around. Of course, my button's broken. I think my button literally might be broken. I'm going to refresh and see if it just goes Captain Insano or not. Uh-oh, my tab just crashed. That's not good. Let's see here. Back in. Let's get back in. See if this will work. Uh-oh, connecting.